a great rant today. I just wanted to comment on what you said about Gwen Berry, and to me, that is one of the fundamental reasons why critical race theory needs to be taught in this country. Because I'm a black man, and a lot of my white friends, they just don't understand. It wasn't until last year that a lot of them learned about what happened in Tulsa. It wasn't until last year that a lot of them understood what Juneteenth meant. It wasn't until last year that Mississippi decided to remove the Confederate flag from their state flag, and it wasn't until last year that we started tearing down these Confederate monuments. A lot of people don't know that a lot of the things that were built around this country, from the way schools are funded to housing to even infrastructure and things like that, were built with racism in mind, and that includes that national anthem. And that is the reason. It's not that we hate our country. I'm an American. I'm an African American, but I'm an American, and I love this country. But I can completely understand why we take knees and why we, turn our back when that anthem is being sung, because it was written with racism in mind. And a lot of excuse me for saying, but a lot of white people just don't know that. And to me, this is the reason why critical race theory is something that needs to be taught. It's something that people need to be educated on, so that way they can understand that. Yeah. And so that was the point I wanted to make.
My one slight recalibration of your suggestion would be to replace the phrase critical race theory, which is something that academics have been using for 20 some odd years, and 99.9% of probably all Americans, certainly of white Americans, had never heard before maybe 6 months ago. And it has the word critical in it. And for that matter, theory and these are all three different words that just generally in various contexts freak people out. And just replace that with let's teach the actual history of America. Let's teach the actual history of racism in America. Let's teach the actual history of African Americans, of Hispanic Americans, of Native Americans, of Asian Americans. Let's teach the actual history. And then you don't get this hysterical response from people who've been watching Fox News and think that and believe Tucker Carlson that critical race theory means criticizing white people for being white and teaching white children that they should be ashamed of themselves, which it does, obviously. But I more and more what I'm hearing in the media generally from largely African American commentators is, we're not going to use that phrase. We're going to talk about, let's just teach the history of America. I mean, for God's sake, it's straightforward stuff, Michael. It's just straightforward stuff.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more, Tom.
Yeah, and it's such a sad thing that our history has been so whitewashed, and I don't think you have to invoke critical race theory to point out, for example, that in the 50s when the Eisenhower freeway system was built, as they ran freeways through cities, they used them to separate black neighborhoods from white neighborhoods, or to just devastate black neighborhoods. The reason why we fund our schools with property taxes, local property taxes, is to keep low-income black neighborhoods having crappy schools, so that their children can't grow up and compete with white people on a level playing field. As a result of a good education. I mean, these are the things that are built into our system, and we don't have to use words that come from academia to describe them. I think we can do it in plain language. But your point is so well made.